everybody, and welcome to Springwatch 2023. Yes, we are back with a brand new series and a brand new location, bringing you the very best of British wildlife for the next 3 weeks. And we're here at our new home, RSPB Arn, on the south coast of Dorset, which is famous for its wildlife, but also it's one of the only places in the UK that you can see all 6 native reptile species. Very exciting. And if we just have a look behind us here, you can see the wildflower meadows. Beyond that, there's heathland, there's ancient woodland, there's scrub, there's marsh. We've got it all this series, we really have. And you can see down there, that's our production village where the team have assembled. They're raring to go. Also, our live wildlife cameras have already started streaming over on our website and BBC iPlayer, and you can watch them from 10 AM to 10 PM right up until Thursday, the 15th of June. It's going to be a wild 3 weeks. But joining me today for the first watch out of this series is the one, the only, can I get a big round of applause, Miss Megan McCubbin!
Oh, you're too kind, stop it.
How are you, my love?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Very excited that you're here.
I'm so thrilled, and I love Arn to pieces. It's only about an hour and a bit away from where I grew up, so it's a place I've visited a little bit, but actually kind of to get to know areas on your doorstep is really important. So I'm so excited to be here, and there's so much cool biodiversity and so much drama happening already, so it's going to be good.
So what are you most looking forward to this series? I know it's a hard one because we've got some good stuff.
It is, but I have to go back to my girl. So since 2020, I've been following CJ7, who's an osprey. She and her partner 022 were the first osprey to breed in the south of England in nearly 200 years. So it's an amazing success story for reintroduction, and the pair are back this year. They have laid eggs. There might be some news in the show about what's going on with her and those ospreys. So yeah, I'm excited to follow her progress through the course of the next 3 weeks.
And the weather seems to be playing ball at the moment.
I mean, when does this happen?
Whether it stays like this or not, we'll have to wait and see. We are here for 3 weeks. But listen, Megs, now I know you really, really love this quiz. Should we play it?
Yeah,
time to play the iconic What the Flora or Fauna Is That?
What the flora and fauna is that?
Now, today we've got a bird call to play in, and we want you to try and guess at home which bird is making that call. Can we have a listen to that now? Oh, well, I will give you a clue. It's a species that's found here. You've got an even better clue, though, haven't you?
I've got a clue, and I know my clues are a bit notorious.
I mean, they are.
But, okay, this is a species which has historically felt the cold. And that's all I'm going to say.
I mean, most birds do, but that call's ready now. Shall we have a listen?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because this is a bird that isn't found everywhere, but it is a really cool bird.
And it feels the cold. Take from that what you will, and if you do
historically in particular,
know the correct answer and you're watching on Facebook, then please put your comments in. Put your answer in the comments below. We'll read your name out at the end. Excellent clue.
Thank you. I do my best, you know.
And of course, we love getting your audience questions in, and please do keep them coming into us across our social media platforms. And this has come in from Not the Corvid on Instagram, and they asked, what is the rarest, most elusive mammal, bird, invertebrate that you've ever managed to film on the show? That's pretty tricky, isn't it?
It's a tricky one because we've been really lucky to get up close and personal to a lot of really rare species. You know, that's one of the great things about our remote cameras is that we get to like delve into that behaviour and never before stuff. And I know last year we had nightjar for the first time. You know, who knows what's going to come this series, but we've got some really good things. But I want to kind of expand that because it's not just about the species, it's also about like really rare behaviours that we get to see, which I think is pretty cool.
It's funny you should say that,
yeah.
Meg. Shall we have a look back at some of the most amazing wildlife
on,
behaviours we've captured? And we think that some of these have actually been firsts.
Go on then. I'm excited.
Let's have a look. So this was last year, Springwatch 2022. This is when the hedgehog predated the skylark nest.
Yeah, that was pretty brutal. I remember watching that. That happened quite late in the evening, and I remember my phone just started erupting with everyone messaging like, oh, look at the live cameras, what's happening? And those skylarks, which we were watching so carefully for so long, predated by a hedgehog. And it was a little bit brutal, but an important part of biology, and we've got to understand it's part of the life cycle.
It did send shockwaves across the nation, this, but we've got to remember hedgehogs, they are generalist predators. They mainly eat invertebrates, but they will take amphibians, even small mammals and bird eggs and small birds as well, won't
Yeah,
they?
well, they're opportunistic, you know, if they're scuttling along and they find something that's going to be very dense in nutrients, then why not make the most of it?
Absolutely. And of course, hedgehogs in our rural environment, they've declined 75% in the last 20 years, haven't they? But they're actually doing better in urban areas.
Yeah, it's really sad. I mean, the way that we sometimes manage the landscape intensively. In our gardens, for example, we put up fences, which is like fragmentation. Hedgehogs are unable to get to one another for mating, find resources, all of that kind of stuff. So putting in hedgehog highways and just kind of talking about hedgehogs is really important because I miss them. I remember used to having them around all the time in the New Forest, and now I rarely see one. And it's devastating. They're one of the nation's favourite mammals. So
Absolutely.
we've got to do what we can to protect them.
And I must just say as well, hedgehogs will only have one litter a year, whereas skylarks, they'll have up to 3 broods, won't they?
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's sad, but we've got to think of, you know, the life cycle as a whole. Predation's a very important part of life.
we think they went on to have another brood, so it's fine. So let's take a look back to Springwatch 2018. Now, this was one of our most viral clips ever, on millions of views this is. This is when the mandarin ducklings jumped out of the tree. Do you remember this, Meg?
I do. I remember watching this like intently when it happened. I remember at home watching it, and that's the female that you can see kind of peeking out, just jumped out there, followed by all of those chicks. And it seems like quite, like, I mean, I'd be terrified. It's like when you're kind of jumping into a pool and you're like, is it going to be cold? Do I go? Do I not go? You have to think about it, but then you eventually make the leap and yeah, come down
But
to
they
ground.
do it, and I mean, they're not a native species, are they? They're first introduced as an ornamental species, some escaped, and then they became naturalised. I think
Yeah.
it was in the 19th century.
Yeah, they originated native to Asia,
Yeah.
China, but they are successful over here now.
Well, I think we've got around 4,000 breeding pairs now, mainly in the south of England, but they can now be found in Scotland and Wales as well. And they'll nest really high in these tree cavities. Oh, look at the last one.
Off it goes. That was quite a crash landing. But I mean, it's something we see with mandarin ducks quite frequently, and they have so many chicks and they lay quite a few eggs, between 9 to 12 eggs typically. I know there was like 14, which is quite impressive. But mandarin ducks do something called basically egg laying. So more females will come on in and just egg dump in another female's nest, and they'll just go, right, well, I'm going to lay my eggs here. This female can have the job of like rearing them, and I'm just going to go over here and watch it all happen. So potentially that could have happened with that nest, but 14, I mean, it could be just over the average, but it could be another female. I think there was another female potentially hanging around, so it could have been.
There was one in the vicinity.
Yeah.
We don't know what happened to her.
Potentially an egg dumping situation going on.
So next up, let's have a look at this. This also caused shockwaves across the nation. This is when a leveret was predated by a marsh harrier. Let's have a look at this. Oh, goodness me. Now you can see the parents are there. They're trying to make themselves big. And of course, marsh harriers, they're our largest harrier in the UK. They've got 130 centimetre wingspan. They're huge. Look at the size of that.
It's a male, I think, as well.
Absolutely huge. And the adult's trying to stand up there.
Yeah, kind of boxing pose a lot of the time you can see. I mean, and it's got it. I mean, it's fascinating behaviour by the harrier to see it kind of hone in on that leveret. It didn't take its eyes off it. I mean, maybe to check the adults weren't going to come and box it quickly, but it had its eyes pinpointed on that leveret. It knew what it wanted. And yeah, I mean, they're very effective predators, aren't they? They're brilliant. And it's part of that cycle again. And it's great to see that kind of behaviour because we would never have seen it like that before, and to see it in kind of slow motion, to understand how they use their eyesight to kind of follow the leveret around. I mean, we get to see that up close, and it's fantastic behaviour of fantastic species.
It really is. And as well, marsh harriers will have 1 brood a year, whereas brown hares, they'll have 3 to 4, won't they?
Yeah, they produce babies
They
like
produce
nobody's
a lot,
business.
so it's absolutely fine, isn't it?
Well, you know, but that's why prey species will have multiple offspring. That's why, you know, young chicks will, mandarins, for example, have had that 14 chicks going on. They produce a lot because the survival rate will be lower. So by producing more, you're securing your genetic information being passed on to the next generation, because you ultimately know that some won't survive, some will be predated or potentially die of natural causes or in weather events. So you produce more, basically, to safeguard. So if you produce lots of offspring, then chances are, you know, that a fair few of them, sadly, won't survive.
But amazing footage to capture, and that's the beauty of doing these watches, isn't it? We get to see things that they're happening all around us all the time, but we just don't get to see them when we're walking around.
Yeah, exactly. And it just gives us that insight, doesn't it? And we get to know them as characters, which I love throughout the watches. We get to kind of really get to know these species, get to know what their kind of daily movements are. And that's a real treat because, you know, you might be able to go and wander your local patch, you know, occasionally or, well, as often as you can. But to really be watching them 24/7, have cameras recording all the time, I mean, it's brilliant. And they, you know, they're undisturbed by it. So, you know, they're none the wiser to us kind of having a nose and a look in. But we learn so much science from it, and then that helps us better conserve them.
Absolutely. Should we have a look at some of the species we're hoping to see this watch? Let's have a look at this. Now, this is a smooth snake. Now, this is the rarest reptile in the entire of the UK. Look at that. I mean, I've never seen one. Have you seen one?
I have done once, yeah. I mean, they are reliant upon kind of sandy heathlands is a really important habitat for them. But you can tell the difference between them. Sometimes they look a bit like an adder. They get confused occasionally, but they've got a round pupil, which is the difference. They're also slightly more slender, and they've got less of a zigzag pattern on their back. So that's the way to tell an adder and a smooth snake apart. But they are incredible, and I'm hoping potentially to get to kind of see one up close whilst we're here, because it is a real hotspot and stronghold for them, which is great.
Well, fingers crossed. And another one, now this is the rarest lizard we have in the UK. This is the sand lizard. Now this is a gorgeous male here, you can see because of the bright green flanks. Now they get brighter during the breeding season, don't they?
It's like an advertisement, like, hey, look at me, I've put all of this energy into creating this really vivid pigment. And producing pigment is something that is very energy intensive. So if you're producing really bright colours like that, you're basically saying, I'm the fittest because I can expend all this energy on colour, look at me. You know, would you like to reproduce with me? It's essentially what this sand lizard is saying.
He's showing off.
He's showing off
in the sand.
I quite like to be that colour. It's quite nice. But the females are much more dull. They're a bit more brown. They don't have to kind of impress the males as much. It's the males that have to impress the females. And yeah, I mean, they're a fantastic animal. I've seen them once before. And yeah, they live in the same kind of habitat as the smooth snake. And you know, sometimes you can get some interesting predation from the smooth snake on the sand lizards, and that would be cool to see.
That would be really good.
You know, but again, hopefully we'll be in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. So now, we asked you lovely lot the other day to send in some of your amazing photographs and videos of one of our favourite and most incredible spring migrants that has arrived to our shores now, and it is of course the swift. And funnily enough, our expert wildlife researcher, Mr. Jack Badams, it's his favourite bird, and this by magic, here he is. Round of applause for Jack,
like a
everybody!
swift.
Hello, how are you?
Can I just point out before we start, I want to peel the curtain back, dear viewer, on a watch out dastardly trick, because last year you had me stood in a hole in Norfolk to even out the height, and now you found the steepest hill in Arn for me to stand on.
Up this way.
People always comment. They always comment. They say, is Hannah really short? Is Jack really tall? It's both.
Both. Anyway, Swift. Should we talk about Swift?
Let's talk about Swifts. So, first of all, this has come in from Sue Robinson on Facebook. Now, look at this. This is lovely. And Sue said, bless her, it's not a good photo. They're far too swift. See what you did there, Sue. But they're reminding me of musical notes here. I've heard that a good photo is one that makes you smile, and this does, so maybe it's a good photo after all. We love it.
Very
Love
sweet.
it.
And they're just very, very hard to take pictures of Swifts. They're so fast, they're so high. I've seen a lot of pictures of Swifts. I'd say that's in the top 10%.
Well, there you go, Sue.
Because it's, you know, there's a lot in the bottom 50. It's the pyramid, you know, there's a lot of rubbish pictures and then it goes up.
Yeah, so, that's good. And I like the music note comment. I think I can see that actually. It's quite nice.
We love that. We love that. And this is coming from Guy Wellings on Facebook. This is pretty special. Now this is look at that.
Wow.
Can we play that again? This is a slow motion video of the swift that always nests in above our bedroom window.
That's very cool.
Imagine like lying in bed in the morning and like opening the curtains and having a swift just dancing outside you. I mean, what a way.
You don't get to see swifts like that.
No.
You just don't to have one nesting. I am very lucky that I've got swifts nesting in my house, and to see them that close, it never gets old. It never gets. Yeah, it's just the best. They're the best bird in the world. They're the best animal in the world.
Wow, that's a statement.
It's a big claim, but you know, I stand
That's
by
a
it.
statement. Fair
I
enough.
stand by it.
Fair enough.
So why are they the best bird in the world?
For me, I mean, like, they're bird 2.0. They just never touch the ground. They've taken the epitome of what it means to be a bird, which is flying around, and they eat, drink, mate, sleep, bathe, all while flying. They never touch the ground in their entire lives, and they'll go to, you know, Africa and back, and in their lifetime they can cover some ridiculous distance, like to the moon and back 6 times or something really ridiculous. They're just extraordinary. They're the best.
I was reading as well, they're actually our fastest bird when flying at level flight. Peregrine falcon, fastest bird, fastest animal in the world, reaching 240 miles per hour, but that's when they stoop.
Yeah.
But in level flight, it's the swifts.
Yeah.
69 miles per hour. Please tell me that's right.
I didn't know that. I know that the fastest bird in level flight in the world is a member of the swift family, which is a white-throated needletail, which can power along. So I can 100% believe that. But peregrines, they take the claim when we talk about the stoop, but even your humble feral pigeon can outrun a peregrine in level flight. So they really do use the old stoop to their advantage.
They get a lot of the limelight.
They get a lot of
for
the limelight
stooping.
for stooping.
Yeah.
For just folding their wings up and dropping. That's just gravity, that, isn't it? That's all that is.
And of course, our swifts have massively declined over the last 20 years, haven't they? What is it, like 51%?
Yeah, over
something
50%,
like that?
over 50% decline, yeah. Largely put down to 2 things. One is the loss of insects. You know, we know that we're hemorrhaging, particularly flying insects in the UK. But also just we're not making spaces for them anymore. They nest, historically they would have nested in cliffs and in woodpecker holes, which they still do in some parts of the UK, but now they're really tied to buildings, cracks in roofs, cracks in walls, and we're building new houses that are much more tight to those. We don't have those gaps anymore, and when we're fixing buildings we don't make space for the swifts. So it's very, very easy to put up swift boxes. It's very, very easy to make space for them, and we just need to encourage more people to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know, my community in Scotland did a Swift Box Day. So we went together and we kind of made these Swift boxes, and now they're up all over the village. And it's so lovely to see, because it happened a couple of years ago and we're waiting for them to move in. A couple, I think, are being investigated by the Swifts. But it's brilliant, and communities can come together, a bit of community conservation to help the Swifts out.
And it takes a long time. I get messages from people saying, oh, I've had a swift box up, you know, for a year or so and nothing's come. But it can take quite a long time for swifts to find them. It can take, because you have the juvenile swifts that come and check out the nest the first year that you put it up, and then they come back the next year and nest in it. So you're very, very unlikely to get a swift nesting in it the spring you put it up. So it's a waiting game, but it's 100% worth it to have the best bird in the world nesting on your house.
The best bird in the world. There we go. Well, listen. Thank you for those lovely photos and videos. Please do keep them coming into us across our social media platforms. Megs, we're going to let you get off now, because funnily enough, you've got something to do tonight.
I know. I've got a busy diary this evening. So
Busy diary.
we're live at 7:30 on BBC Two.
Earlier time, 7:30.
Yeah, 7:30 tonight, and then 8 p.m. for the rest of the series. But it'll be 7:30 tonight. Really looking forward to it. We've got some really good stuff coming up, introducing obviously this wonderful place and lots of the species within it. So it's going to be good.
Well, thank you very much. And we have already been out and about, haven't we, Jack?
We have.
And we're going to go and look at some cameras in a minute. But the other evening, Jack took me out on our own little wildlife adventure to see if we could see one of the most incredible birds found in the UK. Right, Jack, so you've been saying that you've seen white-tailed eagles.
Yeah, so there's white-tailed eagles, a pair of them, hanging around here on Poole Harbour.
Right, and these are the ones from the Isle of Wight reintroduction programme, yeah?
Yeah, so these were released 3 years ago, this pair on the Isle of Wight, as young birds, and have since travelled around the UK and one of them into continental Europe, and they've settled on here in the last 6 months and made this their territory.
So hopefully in the near future they could breed. Yes?
That's the hope for this project that's being run, is that they'll establish a breeding population of white-tailed eagles on the south coast of England, which is very exciting.
It is, because there aren't any breeding in England, are there?
No, plenty in Scotland now, thanks to a fantastically successful reintroduction project, but none in England at all. So the hope is, to establish them here.
Well, I've seen them in Scotland, but I've never seen them in England. Now, you were saying the sandbar out there, I mean, it's pretty far away. It is bright this evening.
It's quite far away, but there is the most exciting brown blob you're likely to see out there on the sandbank. So you're looking straight out beyond the buoys.
Oh, there it is. I can see it.
And you'll see the terns and the gulls just smashing it.
It's really big. Of course, they are the biggest raptor in the UK, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah.
The flying barn door.
You've got to get that in.
Gotta get that in.
With some white-tailed eagle chat. But yeah, they are massive, absolutely huge. And we've been lucky enough over the last couple of days to see them soaring when you really see the size of that wingspan and the breadth of those wings. But yeah, they like to sit out there early in the morning and in the evening before they go to roost in the trees a bit beyond. So
I'll tell you what, that's my first white-tailed eagle
Is
in
it?
England. In England.
Well, okay.
It's just what we do.
It's what we do, making dreams come true.
Every day here on Springwatch. Cool. What a sight.
Beautiful things.
I mean, Jack, that was pretty special, wasn't it?
I did not expect when we chose Arn as a destination to come to Springwatch that we would be able to see white-tailed eagles like that.
And I must say as well, that was probably the quickest film we've ever made, wasn't it? We drove just down here, looked over to the sandbank, got out of the car, and there they were.
There, yeah.
Amazing to see that, especially in this part of England as well.
Yeah, really, it's just such an inspiring project to think that that's going to become a more common sight for people living in this part of the world.
Absolutely. Well, listen, should we go and have a look at our live wildlife cameras back into your dark track?
Yes.
Should I lead the way?
Yes, go for it.
This is your favourite habitat,
It's
isn't
my favourite habitat. Yeah, it's a bit dark in here.
It
you have to
is
adjust
a little
your
bit
eyes.
dark, but this is where all the magic happens.
Yeah.
This is.
And we've
look
had
at these.
we've had an upgrade. Do you remember what it was like in Winterwatch?
There-
In our
there's-
little room, and now we've had an upgrade into this massive camera cave.
So how many cameras have we got? It's over 30, isn't it?
Yeah, well, we've got a mix of cameras. At the minute, we're hoping to be running at, for a Springwatch, we'll often run at about 30, 32 sort of cameras. Now, I think we've got about 24 different ones, but they're constantly popping in and out. That's the beauty about Springwatch, is that as we follow our cast of characters as they fledge or as they fail, as they often do, we're constantly changing the cast of characters that appear on these screens. We're constantly adding new cameras, taking them away. So it's a constantly evolving cast of cameras that we have.
Well, let's have a look. Can we have a look at the kestrel nest?
Yeah, so the kestrel, we've got the external kestrel nest,
Yeah.
which is on at 2, which is on camera 8. Looks like our internal ones playing up a little bit at the minute.
That's a shame.
But we've got the external one.
How many chicks have you got in there?
6 chicks in there. 6 chicks, which is a decent number for a kestrel. They're feeding them really, really well. They're feeding them all sorts of stuff. They're bringing in, we've had a few birds. They particularly like robins, it seems. Oh. They really like young robins. We've had a young dunnock in there as well. They've had small mice, they've had rats, they've had voles, and they brought in a sand lizard today, which was quite cool to see because its tail was waggling around even after it was long dead. So that was quite interesting.
Okay, well, we can't go to Kestrel Cam at the moment. Let's have a look at our oyster catchers.
Yes.
Now, this is quite interesting, isn't it? Because is she on 6 eggs?
She's on 6 eggs, yeah. So the oyster catcher should really only have a general clutch for oyster catchers is about 2 or 3 eggs, sometimes up to 4. This bird is sitting on 6 eggs, which is certainly not all been laid by one bird. So what we suspect has happened here is that 2 females have laid into one nest. Then the extra female, whoever that was, seems to have disappeared, and now we just have a pair of oyster catchers caring for this nest. But there are so many eggs under her that she often can't cover them all.
I was about to say, it must be really difficult for her to cover all of them, especially in this heat as well.
Yeah, so quite regularly we do see eggs sticking out, we see them next to her body, and we don't know whether they're all going to hatch because we don't know if the timings that they were laid, so it's really just a wait and see mode.
Oh, she's up.
Just got off them here.
Can we see those eggs?
So we might be able to go into those.
Can we have a
eggs.
zoom in
There
on
we
those
go.
eggs?
You can't really see from this angle just how many there are, but there are 6 there, and interesting, they're slightly different. There's 3 that are a slightly different shape and colour to another 3, so you can tell that they've come from different birds.
You can see there on the gravel shingle how well camouflaged they are, aren't they?
And they have to be because when the birds get off them, they're just open and exposed like this. But it is getting very hot out there. They're on an island in a very exposed landscape, and when we went to her, you could see, or it could be he, because they both brood.
Yeah.
You could see the bird panting.
Oh, that's an exciting story for us.
Yeah. So this is the great thing.
What's
This is the great thing about this is we start to unpick the stories of these birds and what they're up to, and we get a really amazing insight into their lives.
Yeah, now let's have a look at our, this is a personal favourite, the goldcrest. I don't know if there's an
So that's
adult
on
in there
camera
now.
11, but it's, I think there might be one just hiding. Yeah,
There's this little face.
Just poking its head up. So that's in a beautiful nest, just hanging in the ivy.
Oh, look at that.
And that is the UK's joint smallest bird alongside the firecrest. 5 grams, the same as a 20p coin.
Love that fact.
It's a great
It's a
fact.
classic.
Wheel it out whenever you talk about goldcrest.
Absolutely.
But they're just, the nest is this beautiful construction of moss that's just hanging there, and we don't know how many chicks are in there because it's quite a deep nest cup.
So the eggs have hatched?
The eggs have hatched, yeah, we know,
Right,
there's chicks in there, and we keep seeing both adults coming back with food, sticking their beaks down into the nest, but the chicks aren't big enough that we can actually count them because their heads aren't coming above the top of the nest.
So how long will it take, on average, goldcrest chicks to fledge?
Couple of weeks.
Couple of weeks.
So
okay.
in general, for most of these small birds, most of your sort of songbirds, it takes a couple of weeks for them to hatch, so from being incubated, and then a couple of weeks for them to fledge. That's a good general rule to think about.
So we could get goldcrests fledging?
We should get those goldcrests, we should at 100%, unless anything untoward happens to the goldcrest, which we have had in the past on Springwatch.
Yes.
We should watch them fledge, well before the end of the show, maybe in the second week.
That's going to be a real highlight for me. Now, let's have a look at our nightjar nest. Now, we did have a nightjar nest last year, but look at that.
Look at it at the minute. I mean, they don't do much, but everything they do is just wild. Like, they just look extraordinary. And this bird, obviously, incredibly camouflaged, and not only in its colour, but also often in the poses that they make. So they'll make poses that look like logs and things like that. But this is one that gets very, very hot too, because it's sat there out in the open.
You can see it's panting right now.
Yeah, and sometimes it gets really fast. Gular fluttering is when it pants in and out to circulate the air.
What fluttering?
A gular fluttering.
I've
never fluttered my gular, but the nightjar certainly really, really goes for it when it's hot, because birds can't sweat. So it's just constantly trying to circulate the air so that it can cool itself down. So we have an oyster catcher that pants, and the nightjar will sort of pulse its.
And how many eggs is that on at the minute?
2.
Just 2.
2 eggs. We should expect those to hatch around sometime in the first week of June. And last year we did have nightjar for the first time when we were in Norfolk, but we didn't have infrared cameras on it to watch it through the night. This year, that's what we're doing. So we hope to, when the chicks hatch, really see how they're being cared for and all that sort of stuff that we didn't get to see in Norfolk.
Absolutely. So let's go to the buzzard nest now.
The nightjar, though.
Oh, look at what is it?
Gular fluttering.
Gular fluttering.
Exceptional gular fluttering, right on cue. Look at that. Fantastic, sorry.
I think you could do that.
I'll give it some practice. If I'm on again next week, I'll maybe
Week 3.
Yeah.
Let's go and have a look at our buzzard nest. Now, this is a classic nest for a Springwatch, but I've heard that one of the chicks is significantly larger and it seems to be bullying the other one.
Yeah, it's not happy families in the buzzard nest at all. We have a chick that is noticeably bigger than the other one. And it's just, at times, I mean, now we're showing them on your show, they're being very obliging and pretending it's all happy families. But they really do, when the big chick gets a bee in its bonnet, it just hammers the little one, and it just pecks it relentlessly and drives it to the edge of the nest, sometimes quite close to the edge of the nest, to the extent where us watching it here get quite worried it's going to fall out. That then means when the big chick is left in the nest, it's getting the majority of the food. Thankfully, the buzzard chicks are excellent. The buzzard parents, are excellent hunters and are bringing in loads and loads of prey. So both chicks are getting fed. I suspect the little one may begin to catch up with the big one if it starts to get enough food and the big one just starts getting full. At the start, we were worried the little one was done for. I'm getting a bit more hopeful now. So
we like hopeful.
We do, yeah. So let's stick with that
for
the time being. Yeah, let's be optimistic.
Well, it's a very, very good selection of nests. And remember, you can watch our live wildlife cameras streaming over on our website from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. up until Thursday, the 15th of June. I'm just watching that gular fluttering. Gular?
You can't take your eyes off it, can you?
Gular?
Gular.
Gulu. It's fluttering.
Yeah.
Shall we play our quiz?
Let's do it.
It's time to play What the Flora or Fauna Is That?
What the flora and fauna is that?
So we wanted you to guess which bird was making this call today, and the answer was a Dartford warbler. Let's have a look at that video. gorgeous birds,
Yeah.
aren't they? They've got
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
bright red cherry eye, the navy blue plumage on the head, the brown.
They're stunning. They're really, yeah, I think they're really, really nice. Chris Beckham's not a fan of the Dartford warbler. I learnt this morning he's not a fan of the Dartford warbler, but he's from the south, and you know he's used to.
He sees them all the time.
For me, they're really special. So seeing them around on when we're going around and working, it's fantastic. And yeah, they're stunning birds. Really, really nice.
And funnily enough, it's as if we planned it. Let's go now live to our Dartford warbler nest.
Let's do it, and it's there, which is very,
Which
very
camera
nice.
is it? Oh,
so we're on camera 12.
Camera
On
12.
Camera 12, where our Dartford warbler is, and it's being very obliging because quite often, because it's warm, both male and female are off out feeding. But now we've got what looks like the male there because both males and females will brood, which is unusual when you get down to your smaller birds, but some of the warblers do it. But yeah, Dartford warbler is in just off the floor. I mean, you're talking really, really low down, just in the heather and the gorse there. And yeah, they've got, I think, 5 chicks were on with the Dartford warblers, but they're all, or 3, might be 3, but they're all going very, very well, the Dartfords.
Well, listen, thank you very much.
Anytime.
For having us here, showing us around your truck.
And you're always welcome.
I always call it your truck.
It's not my truck.
It's not your
It
truck.
was.
Thank you all for watching at home. Remember, tune in tonight to our first episode of Springwatch on at 7:30 on BBC Two to catch up with Chris, Michaela and Megs here at Aunt, and Gillian will be live from Wales. I'll be back here tomorrow at 1 p.m. with some extra special guests. Have a lovely rest of your day.